Happy Friday, everybody. Cinephile Mike here with day 58 of Oscar Rewind, my bi-weekly series of video commentary reflecting the work of this past year's Oscar nominees and winners. I'm digging deep into IMDb and looking for those undiscovered gems to help you find something new or maybe revisit something you haven't seen. I'll be discussing award season connections, critical response, box office, and as always, these reviews are spoiler-free. Now, do me a favor, before I dive in, fitting with today's film, do me a favor and click that subscribe button because you definitely don't want to miss any of the cinematic goodness coming your way here on the channel. So, it is the penultimate review for Visuals Month and the second in our editing set. To move along, I am looking at Pathé Distribution and Miramax Films' The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. Written by Ronald Harwood, based on the 1997 memoir of the same name by Jean-Dominique Bauby, and directed by Julian Schnabel, the film released throughout 2007 after its debut at the Cannes Film Festival that year, and by the end of its worldwide run, which stretched from May 2007 to May 2009, no re-releases, just 2 years of varied international releases, the film finished with a $19,780,116 take, $6,003,227 coming from the domestic box office, and the remaining $13,776,889 was international. Critically, this film was beloved, showing 176 critical reviews, landing it with a 94% critical rating, and from over 100,000 audience reviews, the popcorn meter is just slightly below it at 92%. Now, award season-wise, of the over 160 nods and wins, it was a 4-time Oscar nominee. These were for Schnabel for directing, Harwood for adapted screenplay, Janusz Kaminski for cinematography, and the fourth, the reason why it is here, is for Juliette Welfling, who received her first editing Oscar nod for this film, The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, and would repeat this past season, earning her second best editing nod for Emilia Pérez. Now, on both ends, she has edited quiet indie flicks, such as A Prophet, which I talked about earlier this season, and Rust and Bone, showing a frequent collaborator of Jacques Audiard, but she has also done massive tentpoles. She served as the editor on the first Hunger Games film. But let's get back into The Diving Bell and the Butterfly. Some of its other award season highlights included being named Best Foreign Language Film of the Year by the National Board of Review, a BAFTA win for Harwood for adapted screenplay, and a nod for Best Film Not in the English Language, 2 Golden Globe wins for Best Director and Best Foreign Language Film, with a third nod for Harwood Screenplay. It received a British Independent Film Award nod for Best Foreign Independent Film, 2 nods from the Critics' Choice Awards, Best Picture and Best Director, and a third nod which led to a win, Best Foreign Language Film. It had 2 wins for Best Director and Best Cinematography, and 2 nods for Best Feature and Best Screenplay, those 4 at the Independent Spirit Awards, and then 2 wins and 5 other nods at the César Awards, France's Oscars. The wins were for Mathieu Amalric for Best Actor and Welfling for her editing, and nods for Best Film, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Cinematography, and Best Sound for the team of Jean-Paul Mugel, Francis Warnier, and Dominique Gaboriau. And my apologies if I butchered any of those French names. I'm going to be honest. I could keep going talking about the awards, but I'm going to end there because I want to, get into this film. So the film looks at the life of famed Elle magazine editor Jean-Dominique Bauby, or as he will affectionately be referred to in the film by his friends and closest, and by me for the remainder of this review, Jean Do. And, played with a, I'm going to say it, a very subtle intensity by Mathieu Amalric. The film opens right as Jean Do is waking up from a 3-week coma in a French hospital. Now, as a neurologist explains, Jean Do suffered from a massive stroke which resulted in a rare disorder called locked-in syndrome. Now, this causes an individual to be completely physically paralyzed throughout, but mentally, they are completely present and aware of everything going on around them. They can hear, they can process, but they're unable to move or speak. Jean Do is assigned 2 people to help him, a physical therapist, Marie Lopez, played by Olat Lopez, and a speech therapist, Henriette, played by Marie-Josée Crozet. And the two of them are to help him potentially regain some function of his body and voice, but everything needs to be retaught. Now, Henriette teaches him a form of communication called partner-assisted scanning, which enables an individual to read the alphabet, not in traditional order, but in the order of frequently used letters. And when the correct letter is stated, Jean-Du would blink his one working eye to confirm it. Then the person that could talk would go back to the beginning of the alphabet, keep saying letters until a blink, confirm it, write it, and move back and forth. This system, along with learning how to blink once for yes, twice for no, responding to yes/no questions, Jean-Du is able to have some communication. And as the film shows his life from the start of, from this instance, from him waking up, and mini spoiler as we, kind of chronicle the next several years that ends a little tragically, we see his relationship with his ex-lover and mother to his children, Céline, played by Emmanuelle Seigner. We see his relationship with his father, Mr. Bauby Sr., played by Max von Sydow, and the other individuals who come into and out of his life. We see these themes through flashback, allowing Amalric to give insight into Jean-Du's life, and also scenes where individuals interact with him while he is laid up in the care facility. Now, while he is recovering from this, he decides, prior to the stroke, Jean-Du had a book deal to do a female protagonist reimagining of the Count of Monte Cristo, but he's decided to tweak, but still wants to follow through and write this memoir. So he's going to be partnered with a ghostwriter, Claude Mendebile, played by Anne Coseni, to tell his story to her using the partner-assisted scanning in partnership with Henriette. This film, I have to say, it's really moving. It tells this tragic story of a man with the best of intentions, but, we see that he is not a completely blame-free individual. I'm not saying that this is a man who deserved what he got. No, I'm not saying that at all. But the story, it's adapted from his memoir. He didn't just paint himself in a good light and being a tragic figure. Like, he really goes into everything. The poor choices he made, the affairs that he had, his relationships with individuals. So we see that this was a flawed individual, and possibly this is his way to make amends. And stylistically, the way the film approaches this is fascinating. So the first third of the film is told from Jean-Du's point of view. So all we see is what he sees through his one functioning eye. His other eye was actually sewn shut because that couldn't blink. They had to sew it shut because it couldn't lubricate and they didn't want it to get infected. So everything we get from him is from one eye. So we see people looking at him, talking at him. Now, he can't talk, but we do hear voiceover. We hear some of his responses to what's going on. We hear him air his frustrations and those things he can't articulate. And Amalric is quite a presence. As his film progresses, we are eventually treated to a more third-person perspective. We see different individuals interact with him. We're kind of taken out of it. Claude, Céline, Henriette, and so on, all these people. And even though he only has one of his two very intense eyes, I remember those eyes piercing James Bond in Quantum of Solace. He really conveys a lot. So this is a powerful acting performance from Amalric, and I'm actually surprised, given the Oscar recognition and awards noticing his film got, that he wasn't a runner in the Best Actor category. Maybe should have double-checked to see who he was up against. But I feel that he belongs in that running because he really does a phenomenal performance, whether it's through the flashbacks where we get to see him, enacting the past events of Jean-Du's life, or the voiceover we're getting, or just watching him, in this physicality with the limited things he can do. He tells the stories of, him swimming underwater and seeing beaches, mountains. We, get these erotic fantasies that he is envisioning. He even claims that the title of the book came because he felt trapped and sunk like an old diving bell, but people said that his spirit is, almost butterfly-like in what he's trying to accomplish. And I have to say, as we move through this, Welfling, really, the editing work is really stellar, going between these fantasies and the realities of Jean-Du's life, capturing Janusz Kaminski's cinematography, balancing these two lives, the one of reality, the one of fantasy. And we never feel that, one gets eclipsed for the other. There's a nice balance. And this is a film, look, I had never really heard of Jean-Du. I'd heard of this film. I hadn't seen it, actually, before this. And I'm kind of glad that I corrected this cinema sin by finally sitting down to watch this one. I have to recommend this. This is a foreign film that, kind of reaches it, obviously crossed that boundary of not just being an international film, but also getting that recognition in wider categories, which deservingly so. It's a very moving 4-star film. The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, if you would like to catch this one, strong performances, powerful story. Unfortunately, as of this recording and posting, there's no streaming information, but you can rent or purchase it digitally on most platforms. I don't know if the physical release is still there. A lot of Miramax films are a little trickier to find. All right, so that's where I'm going to leave it. So we've had 2 powerful 4-star films this week. We're going to wrap Visual Month with one more in September. Will that one be as high as these 2 were? The cast that's coming for it is quite expansive. As always, if you want to know what that is, you got to come back to me next week. And as always, if you like what you heard here, please click that subscribe button, like the video, share the video, spread the word, drop a comment. You can follow me, Cinephile Mike, on all social media platforms and on Letterboxd. Find lots of great additional content and reviews on my website, cinephilemike.com. All right. Happy watching, everyone. And until next time, this is Cinephile Mike saying take a break and watch something new.